I'm State Representative Denis Guyer. Welcome to another episode of the Denis Guyer Show. Today with me is our Registrar of Motor Vehicles for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Rachel Kaprielian. Registrar, it's great to have you here on the show today, and thanks for coming out to the Berkshires.
It's great to be here, and thanks for the invitation. I'm happy to talk about what we're doing with the Registry of Motor Vehicles in all parts of the state, and especially the Berkshires.
Well, you're doing a lot of good things given the budget climate that we're in right now, and we're going to talk about some of that. But first, how about a little bit about yourself? What you did before you were the registrar, and where you're from, and all of that.
Sure. Well, I'm from Watertown, Massachusetts, which is quite a ways away from this part of the state. I grew up in a community of 38,000 people in 4 square miles.
Now, wait a minute. Watertown is, for people in the Berkshires who may not go to Boston a lot, but when they travel out on the Massachusetts Turnpike.
Exit 17.
Exit 17, which is the exit that the Sheraton Hotel actually goes over.
It goes over the Turnpike. It's now a Crown Plaza, but that is entirely right. Yes, exactly. Okay. So I'm from Watertown. I grew up there, and I've been there my whole life. Before I was the Registrar of Motor Vehicles, I served in the Massachusetts Legislature in the House of Representatives for 13.5 years. And when I left there about a year and a half ago, I left to take the job as Registrar of Motor Vehicles with the Patrick Murray administration.
So, are you happy with your transition? Or are you happy to leave the House of Representatives?
Well, the House of Representatives was a great period of time, as you know. There's so many things you can affect and be a part of there. But oftentimes there's other challenges to be met, and I was very pleased and honored that I was asked to take this job. And it's a great agency, and I'll say that I've worked with state employees. I've always had a lot of great things to say about state employees in all the years I served in government. But nowhere is that better evidenced than the people who work at the Registry of Motor Vehicles. And as I go around the Western Massachusetts branches, and I talk to the people who are the regulars, the insurance agents, or the dealers, they all say the same thing. Great staff, crackerjack. I come in, I get my transaction done quickly, efficiently, and with a smile. And that's what the registry is. Yeah,
I think, not to be a little self-serving here, but I went into the registry about a year ago for some business. And
in Pittsfield.
In Pittsfield, yep. And they probably recognized me, but who knows? No one acted like they did. I wore a hat, wore some glasses, went in as Joe Citizen, just getting my registration renewed. And it's true. They were efficient. They were professional. Mm-hmm. They were friendly. And I think you're right. I think that for the most part, that's how it operates here in the western part of the state. So, yeah. I wanted to say that we know about some of the things that the registry obviously does. Yeah. And the most obvious function being licenses. What are some of the things that the other things that the RMV does?
Well, I'll tell you, when I walked in the door, I did not appreciate the range of services that the Registry of Motor Vehicles provides to the public. And you're right, everybody understands the Registry of Motor Vehicles is we give out licenses and registrations. In fact, we give out 4.7 million licenses and 5.7 million registrations. Not to mention, your various trailers and motorcycles and scooters. We even register scooters. So beyond that sort of big picture, we also do a great deal of work with the MRB, the Merit Rating Board, which does insurance agencies, insurance ratings. Okay. So whatever you're paying on your insurance rate comes out of the MRB. They're not technically part of the Registry of Motor Vehicles, but we work hand in hand with them with our crash data and other records.
So this is providing accident data to the insurance companies, and they base their coverage for drivers on that data.
Exactly.
Okay.
We are probably the single biggest conduit for organ donation, organ and tissue donation in the Commonwealth, and that's because on your license, everybody has, are you or are you not an organ donor? And it is a question we ask of everybody when they walk into one of our branches for renewal. So we do a great deal of volume there, which is charitable. We've got 16 specialty plates, including the trout plate that's out this way, that helps some of the trust, Berkshire Trust for environmental protection. So we've got, that's charity.
And the farm plate.
And the farm plate. So that's exactly right, the farm plate. So we are doing charitable works as well. I actually was at an event a couple weeks ago, and I was talking about how I bet you didn't know that Registry of Motor Vehicles is an environmental organization. And it is. And it also supports the Jimmy Fund, and it also supports, it's really the people that buy the plates, but we are a conduit for that in the specialty plates.
You're managing those programs.
Exactly. We're helping manage the programs. And so that's what government ought to be. I mean, it ought to be comprehensive. It's doing good works, not just in sort of the transactional functions, but trying to think bigger picture as well.
Yeah, and those plates are across the board on almost every issue. I mean, there are, child abuse anti-child
Yep.
abuse, I should say, plates. Of course, the agriculture plates, the trout plate, the scenic view plate.
The Cape and the Islands.
The Cape and the Islands, yes. We can't forget the Cape and the
Yes,
Islands.
that's virtually the other side of the Commonwealth from here.
Really, I mean, the range of the types of plates people can get, you're right. And the Jiminy Fund is another one. And the programs that those revenues support are very important.
Breast cancer, cancer. There's a lot of different places that we do. And then there's your general title information. I mean, every time you've ever wanted to sell a car, who can turn up their title? So you always got to go to the Registry of Motor Vehicles. And probably one of the greatest things we do is we are the warehouse of data in the Commonwealth. And with this MassDOT consolidation, which I'm sure we'll get into as well, we are poised to really be sort of the brains of data and information in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So we do a lot of information technology as well, perfectly evidenced by our website. It is the busiest website in the state. We do 1.5 million transactions. That isn't even the hits, the transactions we do online, and growing.
Wow. So, and you have a lot to do with, of course, identity theft and identity protection.
Exactly. And we have never once been breached.
Wow.
The Registry of Motor Vehicles database has not been breached, and that is because there is no bigger priority that we have at the RMV than data privacy and supporting the integrity of our data. So we might have 4.7 million records, but we protect them like Fort Knox.
Wow. That's great to hear. I mean, I'm sure that the public would be really happy to know that their personal and their private information is being well guarded by the Commonwealth.
And that's thanks to the legislature as well, because there was a sweeping Privacy Act that was passed some years back, and that ensured that the registry would have the resources it needed to continually upgrade the privacy stuff, because that's always a moving target.
Now, were you there when it was voted on?
I was, as a matter of fact, but I didn't know the extent of how important it was until I actually got to the Registry of Motor Vehicles.
Now you do.
Thank you, Representative Guyer, for your support of said initiative.
Thank you. So, for people who don't know all of what the RMV is comprised of, how many employees, how many branches, how big is the RMV? I know the RMV is smaller than it was a couple years ago. We'll probably talk about that a little bit, but for right now, like, how many employees do you have? How many branches?
Well, we are a lean and mean organization. Back in the late 90s, there was a lot of attention paid to a big infusion of resources to the Registry of Motor Vehicles. I was in the legislature at the time, and it was a $16 million infusion of cash to upgrade it, to put in the Qmatic system, which is like the deli service that you get when you go to a registry. The tickets. And to do customer service training and add staff. Back in those days, we had almost 1,100 employees. Today, in 2009, we have just over 700. So we have had a major reduction in force over the years, and particularly in more recent years. As you can imagine, in an organization of this size, you have a lot of attrition.
You went from 2,000 to 700?
1,100 to 700.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean,
almost
that's
half.
Yeah, it's a pretty substantial reduction. Now, there's been two major changes there, and the biggest of which is the internet. The internet was nascent at that time, and now we do 1.5 million transactions online. So that's rightful. I mean, we should be, expanding our technological capabilities and making it better, not just for the Commonwealth, but for the user. I mean, why would you go to a branch when you can do it online in 2 minutes?
Exactly.
And I want to encourage your voters and your residents up out here in the western part of the state, even if you don't have internet access, your library does. And you can go to your library and you can do your transaction online right there, and it'll take you less than 5 minutes.
That's a great plug.
Yeah.
And that is true. So it's good to see that the registry is being operated in a efficient manner too.